evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching and listening to Historian Radio's Defense Review, and I am Muhammad Hussain Qazi, and these are today's headlines from the defense world in light of wars, in light of evolution in defense technology, and of course, the general defense economy that surrounds war and military technology, and its link with our recorded human history. Today, we are taking a look at the abduction of the president of Venezuela, former president of Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro, and the attacks taken by not taken by the US, the attacks that were carried out by the United States government against Venezuela and the city of Caracas in Venezuela. And it is intriguing to note that this is not the first time that the United States of America has accused a head of state of drug trafficking and, of course, of violating democracy and attacking its nation. We look at the chapters of history for reference, and we will find the attacks on Panama that the United States of America carried out in the 1990s when they arrested the head of state of Panama, General Noriega, a former CIA ally, who had, of course, annulled the results of the elections of 1989 and declared his country an anti-American dictatorship. So the United States, on the charges of protecting the right, on the reasoning of the protecting of the rights of Americans in Panama and stopping the drug trade that was taking place, and of course restoring democracy, attacked Panama. Then General Noriega was taken to the United States, where he stood trial on the charges of drug trafficking and violating democracy. A similar situation took place when recently President Orlando of the country of Honduras was taken by the US and was put on trial for the trafficking of drugs. And now we see President Nicolas Maduro, former President Nicolas Maduro, also standing trial on similar charges. While the evidence for these charges may be debated, the reasoning for the attacks on these countries are also debated, but at a greater length. Many view it as the protection of America's southern, not the southern territories of the United States of America, but protecting the southern frontier from the influence of China and other anti-American or countries that are viewed as anti-American and their interests. For example, we see that President Nicolas Maduro maintained close ties with China. He was also an outspoken critic of America's foreign policy, both in places like the Middle East and, of course, in South America, most notably. He was a renowned Chavista as well. That is to say, he supported the philosophy of Hugo Chavez. And so, we see the removal of President Nicolas Maduro in a very, for the lack of a better word, in a clandestine operation. And so it truly does raise a lot of questions. While the situation remains unclear in Venezuela, the action that President Trump took against Venezuela is unfortunately not the first of its kind. We see American intervention in many different South American countries over the years if we look at history once again. For example, who can forget the Bay of Pigs invasion that was done under the Kennedy administration in an attempt to overthrow Castro, a leader who maintained popularity with the Cuban people. Similarly, we look at the successful deposition of President Salvador Allende of Chile and the installment of Augusto Pinochet, the man who would lead Chile into one of its darkest chapters of history. So who is to say that the removal of President Nicolas Maduro is not ushering in a dark chapter for Venezuela? Similarly, we've also noted the seizure of oil tankers and vessels of oil carrying vessels from Venezuela by the United States of America, all of which can amount to an act of war. And so, for the first time in 2026, after many years, a country, a big power, in fact, as one would say, the United States of America has effectively declared war on Venezuela, another big economic power. And when we say economic power, that is not in regard to the Human Development Index or something of that sort, but mainly in regard to Venezuela's oil reserves. And so this truly triggers a lot of debate, a lot of questions that require answers. At this point, the situation remains unclear, but what is unfortunately clear is that this is once again an action that the United States has taken against a South American country without that much of justified grounds. And so that was it for today's defense review. The information that has been quoted to you here today by yours truly is all that has been debated about or has been questioned on public forums, in newspapers, and on other such shows like the Defense Review. And so we now leave it to you, our audience members, to share your views on this, the Venezuelan crisis, and we would appreciate your feedback, your views, be it in support or against, in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching Historian Radio's Defense Review, and I am Muhammad Hussain Qazi, and this was today's riveting question in the world of defense. We shall return to you soon with another such topic and more updates in this sphere of information. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.